Hello, everybody. It's John Johnston with your 2021 Nebraska versus Purdue football kind of preview and prediction. You're probably looking at this game and you're wondering, is Purdue a decent team? Well, last night, Greg and I interviewed Travis Miller, who is my SB Nation Purdue buddy that runs the website hammerandrails.com. Most of the time when you talk to these guys about their team, they have some good things to say, and Travis didn't really have many good things to say about Purdue. I mean, if you talk to regular, highfalutin media people, they'll gloss over things with nice words, and Jeff Brom's a good coach, and David Bell is dangerous, and both these things are true. But Purdue this season, not a good team. Of course, I've said that about everybody in the Big Ten West, but let's look at Purdue. I don't think there's anything really sophisticated about Purdue. They have David Bell, who is going to be, could be a first-round NFL receiver draft pick or high draft pick. Is an excellent receiver. They have quarterbacks that are up and down and all around and not dangerous. They don't have a running game, and they have George on defense. George Karlaftis. I screw up names all the time. So what do we need to do? What does Nebraska need to do to win this game? Well, they need to either double George, read him, or option him. In other words, take him out of the defense, basically. And you run the ball, shorten the game, take possessions away from potentially a dangerous Purdue team, although we'll get to that in a minute. Cover David Bell. There you go. That's it. Take George and David out of the game and woo, we're going to win. Because if we don't win, it's a freaking disaster. We're at 3-5 in the fourth year of Scott Frost, and all this crap about close enough, it's time to look at that and say that's kind of what you say to a 5-year-old kid when you don't want to destroy their self-esteem. This bye week is giving us a break, and it gives this Nebraska football team a good opportunity to show what they can do the rest of the season. To come out and play with energy, come out and play with, like they're playing for their coach's job, which honestly they should be. We should beat the hell out of Purdue. Do I think we're going to beat the hell out of Purdue? I don't know, because you can't tell what you're going to get from this team. During our conversation with Travis, he pointed out something that I had not noticed. But if you look at Purdue's schedule, they scored, if you take UConn out of the game, they scored 49 points against UConn. And UConn is one of the worst programs in the nation. I mean, really bad. They scored 13 points against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and they lost that game. They scored 13 against Minnesota, lost that game. They scored 13 against Illinois, won that game. Well, they scored 13 against Wisconsin. So there's kind of a, there's kind of a lucky number there, I'd say. Now, they beat Iowa when Iowa was ranked number 2. 24-7. How'd they beat Iowa? They didn't give Iowa free points. If you don't get Iowa free points, you beat them. How'd they score 24 points? David Bell had like 240 yards. So they failed at the one thing I said you can't fail against Purdue on. And let's look at why Iowa was ranked number 2. First of all, when you start out this season making a top 25, you're basing it off the previous season. And you kind of really just put names down. I mean, you have an idea who the top 5 might be. But after 10, you're just putting names down on a list. And if you want to have homework, which would be very interesting homework, I think, for you to do. Try making a top 25 and then keeping it up. Do a ranking through the entire season and see how bad it is, how actually difficult it is to get right. But Iowa started out beating number 17 Indiana 34-6. So they beat the hell out of Indiana, and Indiana has proven that they're back to being Indiana. In other words, a really shitty team. They beat number 9 Iowa State at the beginning of the season, 27-17. So right away, Iowa beat 2 ranked teams and nobody else had. So whoop, right up the old ranking they go. Never mind that Iowa State has kind of struggled. They beat Kent State, Colorado State, Maryland. not real great teams. And then they beat number 4 Penn State 23-20, and you're kind of like, oh, what? And again, so Penn State gave them free points. Then Purdue comes along and beats Iowa 24-7. Does that mean Purdue's good? No, it doesn't. It means Iowa has a lousy offense. And if they don't get free points, like I said, they lose. Okay, back to Nebraska-Purdue. What do we need to do in this game? I think we need to, I think Nebraska's offense just needs to score points and not give any away. I don't care if it's through the air, and I don't care if it's on the ground. Most conventional wisdom would say Purdue could score points if they got hot, so maybe it's a good idea to establish a good ground game. Like I said earlier, shorten the game, take away possessions, and beat them up on the ground. We have a lot of weapons that are receiving and running backs, and Adrian Martinez is running, and they can't guard all that stuff. It's just a matter of whether we're going to spend the next 4 games actually being aggressive and unafraid on offense, because I've mentioned this, our offense is terrified of itself, terrified of turning the ball over, so we're not aggressive. And I said last night on the extremely long podcast we did, what I'll be watching for in this game. What I'll be watching for in this game is if Austin Allen and Omar Manning are in on sets when we get into the red zone, because they're really tall guys we could just throw the ball to and they could catch it and score. Nebraska has to win this game. Has to win this game. I don't think Scott Frost is going to be fired even if he loses, which I think is, he's a 4th-year coach, and if you can't get any more than 3 wins and finish at the bottom of the Big Ten West, you don't deserve to be here anymore. Nebraska is going to win this game. I'll go with, we're going to give Purdue 13 points. Maybe we should give them 20 just because we're probably going to commit 1 turnover and George is going to run the ball back just like he did before against Wisconsin last week. But I'll give us, let's say, 28 points, 28-20. Nebraska beats Purdue, and it gives us some hope for a bowl game, which I think we can get to. I think we can win 3 of our last 4. Of course, we could lose them all. It's almost basketball season. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're taking care of yourself. I'd like to say there is no hope and just dismiss it, but I am that eternal optimistic guy. Please subscribe to our channel. Take care of yourselves. Go Big Red.